Hey everybody, Ash Hess here. What I want to talk about today is a little guy that's on the internet and around by the name of Robert Francis. I'm not going to give him his last name, not going to give him any more publicity than that. Rob Francis decided as how he was going to go onto the debates and go everywhere else and talk about how they're coming for AR-15s and AK-47s. Now, I'm not worried about Robert Francis. Robert Francis is a random dude, right? So his opinion is just that, opinion. He's not going to be in any position of power. Some retard community might make him like a senator or something like that somewhere, but he's one guy. Right now he's just one guy on the internet, which I'm one guy on the internet, so my opinion is just as valuable as his. But what we need to understand is the one thing that Robert Francis did is he come out and he went on the record saying it. All the other ones that they see around, they're like, oh, we're not coming for your guns, we're doing this, we're doing that, we're doing that. And so at least he went on the record and saying it. And that's the important part, because they're becoming more bold. In '94, they were talking about they're not coming for the guns, and all the ones that Feinstein have written, all the assault weapons bans, all had a grandfather clause in them, which means they're not coming for our guns, they're just stopping other people from getting them brand new from manufacturers. But this change, they've been getting more and more momentum on it. So again, I'm not worried about Robert Francis. I'm worried about the next guy and the next guy and the next guy, because they're just going to keep raising the bar and raising the bar. So we need to pay attention to that. We need to understand that that's what they're going for. We need to understand that they are coming, and most of us know that. Now here's the problem, and this is what's getting this rant going on. I'm trying to make this one safe for work, so I'm consciously not trying to drop the F-bomb 100 times, but I probably will. Here's the big problem with how we reacted to him coming out and saying that, right? It wasn't, well, there was some dudes that were like, and people that were saying, yeah, right, good luck. But the biggest reaction was the sky is falling, right? It was the day after that, it was like this guy was already king, not even president, he was already king, and he had declared it, so they were coming. Like, everybody was like, the reactions on the Facebook and watching the Facebook thing yesterday, it looked like Paul Revere and William Dawes on horses running around talking about the regulars were coming. The way that it looked on the Facebook, just scrolling through there, it literally looked like that. That there was already cops at people's door. Here's the thing. For our side to have any measure of success, we can't look like a bunch of crybaby bitches. We can't be like, every time somebody says that they're coming, can't freak out and just be like, they're coming, what are you gonna do when they show up? Because that's what Facebook looked like yesterday, and we looked like a bunch of fucking idiots. There's one. So you need to measure your reactions. You need to do things. Somebody posted up something about, look at this, we're getting all this dude a bunch of airtime, and just like a couple other things, the more we talk about it, the more that it shows, the more people that it reaches, the better it looks for them. And they're like, hey, look at all this influence that I got. I went up 50,000 likes because I shared something about Robert Francis, and Robert Francis is whatever. So it's not helping. And that's the thing, is you have to do things that are going to help. I'm a responsible gun owner. I'm doing this. I know how the Constitution works. This is what's going to happen. You're a candidate from Texas. You have no bearing on U.S. policy. You can't do anything. You can't even change U.S. code. You can't even change state law. You can't change anything. So I'm not concerned with you. Now, I'm paying attention to you. and I'm hearing what you're saying, but you really don't mean shit. So that's how a reaction needs to go. Running around and I see polls of what are you going to do when the cops come to your door, all that sort of stuff, right? Number one, he has to get elected. Number two, it has to fucking pass. After Sandy Hook, they had like 10 gun measures in the Senate getting voted on that they had just wrote, and they voted on it, and they couldn't pass it after Sandy Hook, like 2 months after Sandy Hook, right? So it has to pass. Then it has to be enacted. And we have to see what it is before we even know if cops are coming to the door. If S-66, which has been sitting on the Senate floor since February, because Dianne Feinstein drops it every year since 1994, well, probably since 2004, because she had one in 94. So she's been dropping one every year for 15 years. S-66, if you look through there, has a grandfather clause. So if they pass S-66 today, right now, this minute, they're voting on it, and they pass it as I'm doing this rant, guess what? They're not coming for any guns. They're not, because it's not part of the law. So the law has a grandfather clause. That just means that they're going to stop manufacturers from making guns for civilian use. So they're not coming for any guns if they pass that one. If they write one that has these buybacks in it, which is ridiculous, that doesn't have any support from anybody that is actually in the Senate or the House, anything that would pass anyway. So even if they did that, nobody's coming. Nobody's going to put one in there where they're coming for the guns. They're doing a buyback. Now, are they going to do some things? Are they going to try and push some funds over to get some buybacks going? Are they going to push more money? Maybe, but it'll be at the state level. So here's the thing about gun laws. Right now, a lot of them are states' rights. New York has their laws. California has their laws. Florida has their laws. Texas has their laws. Everybody's got these laws and got this reciprocity on it. So most of these weird things are state laws. They're not federal laws. They want the states to do that, which is cool, because that gives us options. If you want guns and you want to do all these things and you don't like California gun laws or New York gun laws or whatever, and if that is your priority, you are free to move about the country. Yeah, I know. It's expensive. It's this. I have a really good job. All these excuses that I hear from people that are staunch gun owners that can't leave those states, that can't have those guns. And I hear them all the time. But they're states' rights. That means you can move somewhere that the states aren't going that way. By trying to put it at federal, it makes it much, much harder to do. Okay? They could probably do a ban. They might be able to do a ban. They've done it before. Do a ban where they can't make and sell new AR-15s and AK-47s. They got you can't buy like Russian ammo right now because you can't import it. All these little things that they can do at the federal level. Everybody wants federal reciprocity. Everybody wants this, wants that. Keep the Fed out of this shit. Keep it at states' rights, because at least you have an escape somewhere. If it goes on the Fed, there's no escape. If your states want to do an assault weapons ban, like California and New York and Maryland and all these places that have a ban, then let them and move. Support your state's rights. It's important, because if the Fed gets a hold of it, you never get it back. We did get back assault weapons, but it was written in there to sunset in 10 years, and that's what got passed. If it hadn't been, we wouldn't even be having this conversation anymore, because they would still be banned, and we'd be trying to pay for all these pre-banned guns. So until it becomes law, it will not be enforced. If it becomes law, if it does, and they go to enforce it, they're going to enforce it as the law was written. So we can't do anything with that. All we can do is say, hey, don't pass a law that looks like this, because we don't know what they are. They go in there, they write, something, and they update S-66 and they change it to do all these sort of things. We lean on our Congress critters and we make sure that it doesn't pass. Now, this ties back into the destruction of the NRA. Everybody's been attacking the NRA, but all of a sudden, when it comes down to when there's things happening in Washington, D.C., you're going to want the fucking NRA. And you're not going to care how much Wayne LaPierre spent on shoes if he's in there and using the NRA's muscle to fight these bans. So, you got to think of how you're doing that. Right now, we got guys like Dwayne Liptick, and we've got You know, other dudes and people that people don't like are Rob Pincus, but their asses are up in Washington right now working the problem. So you need to think about that, and you need to think about how that goes, right? And that's reality. Now let's talk about posturing. When you see these things and all of a sudden, like I said, it looked like they were coming for the guns, and you got the dudes like, come and take it, I'm at the front door, let me be first, right? Posturing, okay? It is straight up, unadulterated. We know you're a fucking liar. We know if the fucking cops knock on the fucking door, you're going to be like, hey, yes, sir, okay. And they knock on the door and you're going to give them your shit. If you were willing to do that sort of stuff, and you were willing to become a traitor, because that's what you would be, and a criminal, because that's what you would be, then you probably would have already done it. Okay? So everybody's like, you know, we talk about running to the end of the driveway, and people put that in a weird fucking context, and people are talking about the boogaloo and all that sort of shit, and everybody knows that it's fucking joke. So when you're saying that shit, you look stupid. And again, that goes back to what the image we're supposed to be putting across as gun owners and good members of society and all that sort of stuff, and we're putting up our 2 alpha shield, and we're just like, I'm a law-abiding citizen, but fuck you, come to my door and I'm going to shoot you in the face. Okay? That's how you look. So check the posturing, check the sky is falling, check all the sort of stuff that you guys are posting, because it's making it worse. Making it harder to actually execute and make a good conversation. That goes for all you magazine clip, word mean things, semantic argument things that I've talked about 100 times. Right? Now, why is all this shit happening? All this shit is happening is because some dudes are willing to kill innocents. And we can't stop them because they haven't done a crime, and the red flag laws and pre-crime and all that shit is weird. But there are people that are conducting mass murders. The mass murders are getting media attention. Gets media attention, people see it. People are talking about it. No, it's not happening that often, but when it does happen, people want it stopped. So they keep it in the news and they keep it going because they have their agenda and it fuels their agenda. And then we start freaking out like the sky is falling, and we're saying, if the cop show up to my door, I'm going to shoot him in the face, and we're saying all this stuff. But we're hiding behind a shield. We're hiding behind the shield of the Second Amendment. So I still haven't seen a viable solution. I don't have one. We haven't seen a viable solution. All we're doing is we're staying on the defense. We're like the French when the Nazis are building up prior to them rolling across the French border and pushing their shit in. We're just standing there and we're just like, not one more inch, you shall not pass, all this sort of stuff. We're just saying that. We're not looking at ways to fix the problem. We're not talking about ways to fix the problem. Other people are talking about ways to fix the problem. Are they the right ways? No. We know it's not an effect. But they're still talking about solutions. We're not talking about solutions. We're just talking about what you're not going to do. Which doesn't appease the fence sitters, because most of you guys that are listening to this are already committed to one side. Right? Maybe somebody who's listening to it is on the other side, and that's cool. That's fine. But what we're going for is we're going for the people that are floating right in the middle. The people that want it stopped, but are not sure about the guns. That's the people we're going for. So we need to look like at least semi-professional human beings. So we're going to talk about leadership. We don't have any. We don't have any leadership. Nobody is leading. Nobody is taking us to a place. Everybody's just going. They're just Roombas with AR-15s on them and a full auto trigger. They're just wandering around, blasting, whatever. We're just saying all this stuff inside our own circles on Facebook. Okay? So if you think that you're good, if you think you have a plan, if you think you can take us a direction, step up, start getting yourself out there, start doing videos, start doing articles, start doing something to show leadership. Because operations without a unified command are doomed to fail despite any advantages of terrain or the fighting spirit of the unled. I'll say that again a little slower. Operations without a unified command are doomed to fail despite any advantages of terrain or the fighting spirit of the unled. So, let's talk about terrain, okay? The high ground, things, defendable positions. The Second Amendment is a defendable position. It's in the Constitution of the United States. It is hard to change, but they can do regulations on it. They can do weird things. They've already done a ban once. They can do it again. So, we have the advantage, the terrain advantage of the Constitution. They know how to get around it. They've been trying to get around the Constitution since 1781. Think about that. They have been chewing on it, trying to figure out how to get what they want. Both sides have been trying to figure out how to get what they want and push their agenda since the ink was still wet on the Constitution. That's the name of the game. Learn the rules, find a way to bypass the rules to get what you want. So they know how to do it. They know how to get around it. They know exactly what the Constitution says. Everybody's like, they don't know what the Constitution says. They know exactly what it says. The way that it was said. And the way to spin those words to get what they want out of those words. Looking at it from one side. Look at it from the other side. See how you're going to do it. Pretend you were gaming a stage. And you were trying to figure out all the ways to kind of slide through there to gain some advantage to possibly win. Okay, the stakes are very high in this. They understand exactly what the Constitution says and what they need to do to change it. Or what they can get away with changing it. And how they need to do that. So, whole thing on this rant, I don't give a shit about Robert Francis. I don't give a shit what he says. He doesn't give a shit what I say. Doesn't matter. We'll see you if you get elected, and then we'll see you across the board on everything else that you're trying to do. So I'm not worried about that guy. I'm not worried about Kamala Harris or whatever her name is. I'm not worried about all those people. What I'm worried about is the current 100 senators and the 535 people sitting in the House of Representatives, one President Trump, and the Supreme Court of the United States. That's who I'm worried about. That's who's there. In a year, some of those things might change. Speaking of that, election season is getting ready to come up. There are some Senate elections that are coming up, and the presidential election. Don't forget about that. Don't forget about your states. Don't forget about your governors. Don't forget about your state legislators. Because, as I said, states are currently using their rights to manage the gun issues that we have, like open carry and not open carry, and assault rifles and all this sort of thing. They're currently at the states, and that is where we want them. We want the Fed out of it. So all that makes a difference. I know people say voting doesn't make a difference, but spreading your wares, spreading your circles, getting people to get 100 people to vote the same way that you voted starts to mean something. Getting 3,000 people voted, all those sort of things, especially in the states things. If you can mobilize 130 people or 140 people to go down and talk to your sheriff's department, then your sheriff's going to listen in your local areas. So use those things to your advantage. Hope everybody's having a good weekend, and stop with the Facebook shenanigans.